Okay, hello and welcome. Go ahead, honeybee.
Well, good evening. Good evening. It's Joy Arthur from, actually, we can now say the big city of Granbury, Texas, because our community has just exploded this last year. So no longer do we get to say a small town. We're into the big city. And tonight, I get to interview not one, not two, but three very handsome, somewhat smart, really cool guys. And so we go from like older to youngest. So we have one that's a great grandfather, we have one that's a grandfather, and we have one that's thinking possibly some point maybe fatherhood will come into his life. So,
Funko.
so the privilege is with first off on our great grandfather's side is Jim Rhodes, who we all love and have sat at his feet for so many years and learned so many bits and pieces of his wisdom in his life. And then Robert comes next, and Robert is in the grandfather stage of his life. And then we have Hayden Favreau tonight. So it's kind of interesting the questions I'm going to be asking you. So I was always taught really there's four things that you don't ever ask a person, one of those, especially a woman. So we'll cover that one last. So, number one is you never talk about politics with friends or families. You only want to talk politics with somebody that you really could care less if they were your friend or maybe your family, either one, but no talking about politics. You never talk about money. You never discuss that issue either. So whether you're rich, poor, or in between, that's not anything you ever discussed, at least when I was growing up. And you never asked somebody like what they made or how much money they had. That was like, once again, off the table. And so the last one was religion. So we were always taught you don't ask somebody about their politics, their money, or their religion. And the reason being, even for the last one, is that you could offend a person or a family member, or once again, a friend that, maybe wasn't open to the same way of thinking that, that you have or have had. And then, of course, the last thing you never ask is a woman's age. So I'm going to just throw that in there because I know that you guys are so wise and you wouldn't do it on your own. So, it's so interesting with this walk that we're all on together here. We're probably all three of us, four of us, are speaking more about our faith in a public setting, online, in every Instagram, Facebook, you name it, we are talking about our faith. And this is something that we haven't necessarily really felt so free to do before. And maybe that was us. But a lot of it was the pressure that came from outside. And as many of us have talked about lately, we feel like there are so many things changing and shifting in our world that people are looking toward finding a faith and a higher power that they can put their beliefs and their heart and soul into. So, Hayden, I'm going to start with you because you are the youngest of the group. And so you maybe haven't been brainwashed as much as the rest of us have. So, as you've begun your new journey, walked away from a very successful company,
Mhm.
to even do that, you had to have a ton of faith to be able to walk away from that. Picked up your new company, it's going great, but I have watched your faith blossom like I have never seen before with you. And so tell us why you feel kind of what happened for that to happen, but also how you feel about the whole process of faith in your business. And
Mm,
that's where we used to really draw the lines. Is you could talk about your faith at the grocery store, maybe, but we're talking about like in your business. And
right.
so that's a little bit different feeling. So tell me about that for you.
Yeah, awesome. I've never been asked this question, so I'm very excited. And but it's been something I think that's just in the last year or so really been on my heart. To be able to bring that in, and when we're growing a business like this, we get to create community, and I think it's very important to know just where people stand, or when you're looking at leaders, like where do they stand? Is that something I can align with? Do my values align with that? And a lot of my values come from my faith, and so
Mhm.
it comes out in that way. And I always kind of pick a word for the year. And this year it's been trust. And I think anytime, and now I'm starting to think of a new word already for next year. But my whole theme has been trust, as I knew that I was being called to do something different and do it in a different way, and didn't know exactly what that was going to look like, but that I had to have complete trust in God, in my higher power, that He is going to keep showing the way, that He is going to keep leading the way. And the more that I have not stopped trying to control everything and trust in that, which is very difficult sometimes.
Mhm.
Be like, I want it this way, or this is how I see it. But it's like, okay, no, what lead me, in having those constant conversations or prayers. I like to say is that this year has been all about trust, and it's forced me to really get into that place because I didn't have, necessarily. I don't know how do like I couldn't just mask that with the income I was making or the place I was living, or it took total faith and trust to be able to step in and be able to start over,
Mhm.
and start fresh. I think that was the biggest thing when as I was making this transition. It was a big eye-opening moment for me, was to God just told me, like, you have to let everything from the past go. Like,
Yeah.
I'm giving you a clean start. I'm giving you a fresh start, and to be able to just, that's been hard to release everything.
Yes. Yeah.
That has been difficult, but that has been, just my mission leading up to it. And I always like to train on things that I'm
Mhm.
going through, because it's relevant and it's authentic and it's real. And more often than not, you never know who needs to hear it. But when we do that, the right people hear it, and you get to grow and develop. And I think that's one of the things in this business is leadership development is so important. And it's not just teaching, sales. It's not just teaching marketing. It's not just teaching, what to say, but it's that leadership development, I think, has become a lost art that is now something that we've really been bringing into, this new venture with, all of you guys being able to share your wisdom, and all of us coming together is really special.
Mm, yeah, very good. You know, it's always interesting how when we're involved in a business like this all together, for years, I didn't really feel like I could pray for our business. And even though I knew that I was able to give more and all of that, I still felt somewhat, a little bit selfish about doing that. And even with this company, as Robert and I both have grown in our faith, that's changed on so many levels. So has that changed for you?
Yeah. I think it's more out. I would say I'm just more outspoken about it, uh,
Mhm.
in letting people know, like, yeah, pray for you, pray for the team every single day. Every time I open up my back office, pouring blessings over it. And it's like, why not? Because I was like, I want to be surrounded by people that also do that for me, not talk behind my back, but pray behind my back. And that by doing that, that's what, by me, leading in that way my own life, then I'm just trusting that the right people continue to keep coming around, uh,
Mhm.
that think that same way.
Yeah. Yeah. We always say that, in a business, we don't want people sitting around our dining room table for supper if they don't align with core values that we have. If we wouldn't entertain that person in our home around our grandchildren, we probably don't need them in our team as well. And so
Mhm.
I think even our choices and selections of people that we've asked and they have said yes to has made a difference.
Yeah,
Yeah.
big
Yeah.
time. Because it's like, I'm not going to force anything on anybody. But this
Mhm.
is, who I am. Take it or leave it,
Yeah.
and everybody's welcome. And we're here to grow and learn together.
Yeah. And don't you feel that peace?
Yes,
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
amazing. It's the
Yeah.
best.
Yeah. I don't wake up in the panic.
No,
Yeah. So the
not.
panic button has been released.
Yep. Yeah. There's no more. There's no more panic. Well, I keep saying the word trust, but just full trust in
Yeah.
that everything is happening and working out for our good.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
I've known you for a long time and I've watched you from afar when we were in totally different companies, even at that part. And it's like I can just see every step of the way that um, God has held you pretty tight through a lot of really tough things. And I've seen you come through the fire. And I can see that. I can just see a spirit in you. I can see all the difference. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank
So
you. Yeah.
sharing.
He's
Yeah.
amazing.
He is amazing. Yeah. So we're going to go from the youngest to the oldest. So, Jim, a lot of the same questions that Hayden just discussed with us, faith has been, as long as I've known you and listening to your stories from even before then, your life is your faith and your faith is your life. And, there's many times you would be at our house that I would wake up early in the morning and you would already be downstairs. I would always try to get up early and get the fire going, but you would be downstairs. You would sit in that red chair that we had in the living room, the lamp at the side, and you would have your Bible open. Yeah. So now that you're on a new journey, tell us how your faith is being seen by new people that you're bringing in, how you're speaking, how you're just, as you talk to new people every day, how do they know about your faith and who you are?
Well, those are really deep questions too, and I really appreciate what Hayden just said. That word trust is mighty, mighty big.
Mm,
And I'm going to answer the question you actually asked, but before I forget this, when you're praying over your people, and if we're praying for all of our people, uh, if we pray for one another, we lose jealousy, envy,
mm,
and comparison. In fact, it can bring such joy to see some of those people who came in after us with less abilities or less knowledge of how to work this that come up through the ranks and maybe even pass us, and we're there cheering them on, go, go, go. And then that is amazing. That's where joy comes from for me. That
yeah.
is just pure, especially again back to my own family and my children and their accomplishments. I wear a lot of shirts without buttons because I lost them a long time ago because of their accomplishments. But at the same time, how do I show up? Hmm. I think two big lessons. One, deciding that life for me happens for me, not to me, was one major shift in my thinking. I've been taught it since childhood at my mother's knee.
Mm,
And I literally was raised on that, but I didn't really appreciate what that meant until hard things hit.
mm, mhm,
And then the questions come, why? And
mhm,
then I remember that statement and I go, oh, that's my growing time. Just like
mhm,
muscle, it's got to break a little to grow a little.
mhm,
Same thing with my faith and with my desire. It's my core.
mhm,
And in a way, it's even more important than my success because they
mhm.
say, if you've helped one person discover his higher power, which would in our case be the Lord, how great shall be your joy.
Mm,
Imagine having influence on hundreds and thousands and then tens of thousands. And it's the life you're going to live that's going to leave the example that hopefully they'll want to lean into it, know more about it, and maybe even at some point in time
mhm,
decide to join it. And again, it's their agency, and I pray for them in whatever growth they're in, personal growth included, of spiritual
mhm,
being part of that. And I guess one of the biggest single things that has affected me in my business right now is that I do know that when one door closes, another one often opens that's even greater and more important. And I'm not in charge of the world. It goes
Mhm.
back to that old statement, I don't know what today holds, but I do know who holds today in his hands.
Mhm.
And he knows my name. And he's
Mhm.
heard me talk to him in my prayers, my meditation. And so he wants me to learn everything I can learn while I'm here because
Mhm.
I'll get to take that with me and be more like him. And that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
So everything up till this point in my life and making those big decisions like Hayden did, walking away from a very successful income to
Mhm.
start anew something that took a lot of faith and a lot of courage, but at the same time, he had done it once. Well, I've
Mhm.
seen that numerous times. When you get to my age, I know what can be done. I don't have to have that total faith that can I, because I have. And once that happens, then you just have to be determined to put to work what
Mhm.
and then be open. The new innovations, it starts at the head down, and I'll just end on this one. David Smith, he is the most
Mhm.
humble man I have ever seen with the brain power that he has and the ease that it would be for any person to take the credit. He's done something nobody else has ever done. He
Mhm.
has got some things on the table that we have in our hands that bless multitudes. And he says all the credit goes to him.
Mhm. Yeah.
From the very first time I heard him speak, he spent the first 2 to 3 minutes explaining this was inspired by, quote, the book of Genesis and
Mhm.
nature and comparing that. And
Mhm.
and all of those inspirations I get, he doesn't say it's because I'm smart. He says because I get inspired and I go down this trail and it opens up. So
Yeah.
hopefully that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. And I would tell you, your opening statement about losing jealousy and envy was worth the price of admission without a shadow of a doubt for this. Um, I can't, I cannot thank you both enough for sharing from your heart what you've shared with us. And we're going to wrap up with Robert. And we're going to do a part two of this series. And, I think what we're going to do on this next one is we're going to talk about one of those things that we don't talk about, which is money. How does that work in our life? How does it work when we give it away? What are the expectations? How do we ask for that?
Mm.
I think there's some things around money that, as we open up our thinking and we learn from all of us together, that will help us. It's just another part of the tool bag it's what's in our tool case that's basically going to help somebody make a decision as to whether they would come or not come to the company. So, Mr. Arthur, so when I get up in the mornings, I see you sitting in a chair with the lamp beside you, and you have your Bible out, and you have your prayer time before my feet have even hit the floor. And so this is something you've always been a very spiritual person. There's no doubt about that. But it's like I can see a faith in you that I've never seen before. So, how are you bringing all of this to your business, to our business? And what changes have you made in how you use your faith walking in this new path?
Thanks, honey. You know how much I love you, and love and light to you as well, Hayden and Jim. And for those watching, part of it, I too, when Hayden was saying my word of the year, and then another one's coming. Can't
Mhm.
wait to hear what that is. By the way, Hayden, you know, I was thinking of a phrase, 2 words, and my first word was clarity, and then I was I was using a descriptor called grounded clarity. And one of the biggest compliments that I received recently was about 2 days ago. I was on a mentoring call with a fiery, passionate leader on our team. And she
Imagine
said,
that.
yeah, imagine that. Imagine these fiery, beautiful, independent women that we work with. What a blessing that we live life with, Hayden and Jim.
Yeah.
So, so, and the compliment was, Robert, based on my other experiences, because we worked in the past with other ventures, and she said, I haven't seen you this calm and
Mm,
clear and
yeah.
just grounded than I do right now. And it was so validating. And I said, I received that.
Hmm.
And so, which brings up another thought, is that one of the big epiphanies that Jim and myself, we actually co-host a faith-based personal development
Hmm.
leadership. Now it's a book club, but we've been doing it for what, 4.5 years, Jim.
Yeah.
And to be accountable to a group like that of other faith-based, core value-based leaders, and they, at this point, they come from different ventures, and we're all connected by our faith, and
Yeah.
we're all entrepreneurs. It's that when you can hold yourself accountable by peers and that have similar standards, similar values, and similar faith, then it helps you elevate your own standards. And so that's one area. And one of the biggest epiphanies that I recently had, and Hayden and Jim have referenced this roughly 4 weeks ago. I had never, I have met many people who had money and wealth and different things like that over the years, and fame, and whatever, and not whatever, but yes, and many of them were blessed, and they were stewards of that, great
Hmm.
stewards of that. That being said, I'd never met a man, as Jim said, so grounded in his faith and clear about his mission, that was yet so bold publicly about where his brilliance and wisdom and even wealth
Hmm.
originates from, than I have here recently. And that validates everything. And it was a beautiful lesson, that it was a reminder that we can be, and step into a place where we're bold about where our source of inspiration, abundance, and joy
Hmm.
come from, and still be grounded,
Mm.
still be relevant, still be highly respected in the business community. And even more so, recently we had a death in the Christian community, which we all know, and it was tied to a gentleman who was extremely bold about his faith, and he was actually killed for that. He was actually, they thought he'd silenced him, but in essence, his reach now and his family's reach is more potent and more powerful than it ever was while he was living. So, anyway, my biggest answer to your question, Honeybee, was that there's never been a more needed time for business men and women of faith who are grounded in that, and why they're grounded in why we were created to serve others, to be a bit non-judgmentally and respectfully bold
Hmm.
about their truth
Hmm.
than today.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you, I could not agree more. I know the individual you were speaking about was Charlie Kirk, and that, I think that made us all look at things a lot differently. And what an amazing young life, short lived life he had. And even with his death, has made one of the biggest impacts of all. And I think it left all of us with the question, if that were me, would I have made the same impact on the world? Would people have known what I stood for? Would people know in my business that my walk with the Lord and our faith is a huge part of that? And I think it even gave all of us more a little bit of a liberty to open up and, as you said, be bolder about that. And I think the time for being bold is now. I truly do believe that on a lot of levels. Yeah. Well, I know that we're on a time crunch, and I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you for sharing the deepest parts of your heart with us. Some of these questions are not necessarily easy to ask, I think, because it makes us be still and ponder exactly, what our answers are going to be. But
Yeah.
I'm excited about part two as we talk a little bit about money and how this faith and this money all works together in our business. And I just can't thank you guys enough. It's just so fun to share this time with you. And it's one of my favorite things Robert asked me to do now. The answer is yes, before he even gets the question out, because I love spending time with you guys. So we will go ahead and stop our recording now. And Robert will be posting soon this recording, but as well as the part two that will be coming up. We will get to that and we will continue on this journey of sharing the most amazing nuggets and tidbits and heartfelt thoughts from these great three individuals. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. And one little call out for the call to action, really, if this really touches you and the message resonates at some deeper level, feel free to reach out to any of us on this interview or who shared this with you,
Mhm.
and we can introduce you to a community and not even attach in many cases to the same business venture, but just we
Right.
can share community and personal growth that's welcoming and non-judgmental. So reach back out. We can have a Zoom chat, or we can
Yeah.
introduce you to the book club, different things that we all do and share. And so we invite you to do that.
Very good. Thank you for that.
Love it.
Thank you all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Take care. God bless.